And if you're wondering if it's the government's fault that you're depressed, you're right. To Okayish does whatever she wants. I'm OkayishAF, and I'm gonna do whatever I want. Is that the intro? Maybe that's the intro. I don't know. That's the title of the podcast, though. And today we're talking about daylight savings time. That fucking bitch. I know it's daylight saving time, but like, you know, we can afford to not be nitpicky today, okay? There are bigger issues going on in the world than me throwing an S on. So if I say daylight savings time throughout this whole podcast, you're just going to have to cope with it. I'm so sorry. We're going to be talking about how daylight saving time can affect your mental health because it is affecting mine. It's so bad down here. It's so bad. Also, the history of daylight saving time, for those of you who maybe aren't aware of it, because I'm a history nerd and I love that shit. We're also going to be talking about Timothée Chalamet, and his bonkers statement on ballet and opera, and highlighting some ballerinas that you should support and pay attention to. And then we're going to talk about life. Life is lifing. Let's go. I feel like every year I look up the history of daylight saving time, and I feel like every year it changes to something different. Or maybe just like my oatmeal brain is just like not remembering things correctly because I feel like it's always different. Today are taking a trip to the University of Colorado. University of Colorado Boulder, to be specific. That's where we're going. And it's the Coloradan Alumni Magazine. That's where we're hanging out today. In an article in 2022 by Alex McMillan. There's a lot of myths around daylight saving time. I think like one of the things that is sort of like talked about the most is that it was created so that farmers have more daylight hours. But that's not the case. According to Alex McMillan in this article, which I will have linked down below, it was first introduced in Germany in 1916 during World War I as an energy-saving measure, according to the Colorado University Boulder sleep researcher Kenneth Wright. The U.S. followed suit, adopting daylight saving time in 1918, initially implemented as a wartime measure. It was repealed a year later. So the US did a lot of flip-flopping. And in this video, we're just going to focus on the US because like, that's where I am. That's where my viewership is. That's where we are. I'm so sorry. The only people who really get mad about that are the British, and y'all can suck it. Love you. Love you so much. It was implemented during the First World War, and then they repealed it and said, no, we're going to go back to standard time. But then they brought it back during World War II. Daylight saving time was reinstituted in 1942 during World War II. The next couple of decades were a free-for-all when states and localities switched between daylight savings time and standard time at will. To put an end to the clock chaos, sounds like a really fun band name, Clock Chaos. What would their songs be? What time puns do you got? Comment down below. Congress finally passed the Uniform Time Act in 1966. Not that fucking long ago. Time is weird. It's stressful. It's so stressful. I hate time. Which standardized daylight saving time and its start and end dates across the country, with the exception of Hawaii and Arizona, which opted to keep standard time year-round. Now, standard time is what we switch from in spring. We spring forward into daylight saving time, and then in the fall, we fall back into standard time. Anyone who like people who are watching this who don't know about, like, who don't, are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I know it's insane and we should stop doing it. However, there's been a lot of states who have 19 states, I believe. I'll put a little graphic up here to show you. 19 states have put forth resolutions or legislation enacting daylight saving time year-round, citing health benefits for kids because they have more daylight, etc. Right? There's a problem with that, though. Also, I love how Arizona and Hawaii said, nah, that's stupid. We don't want to do that. Fuck your daylight saving time. There was a blip in 1974 where the US decided to adopt permanent daylight savings time. However, after the first winter of dark mornings, public support dropped so low that it was repealed. Now, even though those 19 states have said, hey, we want to keep daylight savings time, and I think Florida's argument was tourism. Tourists would have more daylight in the afternoons to spend more money and increase tourism income for the state. Okay, that's all sounds well and good, but in order to have those resolutions and state legislation passed, it still needs to be approved federally. And the Sunshine Protection Act has been introduced into Congress since 2018, like a bunch of times. But it's always failed. It has never had the votes to pass. Can you imagine the chaos if 19 out of 48 states decided, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. So now we have 21 states that are a different time zone than the rest of the country. And if you're in a state like Virginia, or if you live in DC, for example, where you have like 3-4 states within a couple of hours drive of you, how, if any of those, like, why? We have enough to memorize. It's so stressful to me. There's a part of Florida, and I'll put a map up here for those who aren't aware. There's like a part of Florida that's in Central Time, like the Panhandle, and then the rest of it is Eastern Time. And I just always think about, like, if I lived on the edge of that, and I had to be at work at a certain time, but my job was in Central Time, and I lived in but like, it's just a line. It's just a made up line that, like, you cross and suddenly it's an hour difference. I would be so stressed every morning trying to get to work if that were the case. Also, I'm going to put a map of Australia's time zones up here. This is my Roman Empire. I think about Australian time zones at least once a week and how fucking weird it is. While China just has one. China has one time zone. Australia has a bazillion. One of them is like 30 minutes difference. And I just, like, time is so stressful, and I think we should just throw it all in the garbage. I don't think it should exist. So they interviewed this professor, Ken Wright is his name, Professor Ken Wright, a professor of distinction and associate chair for integrative psychology at University of Colorado, Boulder, in relation to how daylight saving time can affect people's mental health and why switching to that time permanently is actually a bad idea. When Senators Marco Rubio of Florida and Edward Markey of Massachusetts introduced a bipartisan Sunshine Protection Act earlier this month, this was in 2022, by the way, they rattled off a long list of reasons for making daylight savings time permanent. Among them, it would enable families to spend more time outdoors in the evenings, and in doing so, help combat childhood obesity, said Rubio. And getting that extra hour of sunshine into people's lives could improve public safety, save energy, and boost mental health, said Markey. But CU Boulder professor Ken Wright sees it differently. If you look at expert consensus from the scientific societies that focus on sleep, health, and circadian rhythms, all of them agree this is a bad idea, said Wright, who has studied the impact of light on sleep and health for 30 years. Yes, we should be getting rid of the time change, but the science suggests that we should be sticking with standard time and not daylight saving time. And this article goes on to ask Ken Wright a bunch of different questions, like regarding the bill but wait, like, I think like more sunshine at night would be a good thing. Like, isn't it? Ken says, Actually, no. When we get exposed to light at night, whether it be more sunlight or lights inside our house or on our devices, that sends a signal to our circadian clock that we should go to bed later and wake up later. Later sleep timing is associated with more substance use and physical and mental health problems, including obesity, depression, and heart disease. It's also associated with morning sleepiness, which contributes to accidents, poor work productivity, and poor school performance. And we're not just getting more light at night with this change, we're getting less morning light. Morning light is good for your health because it promotes earlier sleep timing that is more conducive to school and work start times. They also asked, you say we should do away with the time change. Why is that? And he says there's no question the change itself is associated with problems. In the days after the spring ahead we just went through, we get less sleep and wake up at a time when our brains are telling us we should be sleeping. There are lots of associated risks, including an increase in fatal motor vehicle accidents and heart attacks and strokes. Listen, I'm going to have these articles linked below there if you want to read more of them. They're actually fascinating. There are no benefits to this. It is outdated. We shouldn't be doing it. Of course, I had to look because I have been going through it this week. The time changed a few days ago, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going through it. Is it that? Is it that? And maybe I'm confirming my bias here. Maybe, but let's see what Harvard Health has to say. This was published in March of 2023 by Matthew Solon. Please forgive me. A former executive editor, Harvard's Men Health Watch. It was reviewed by Howard E. Lewine, MD, Chief Medical Editor, Harvard Health Publishing, Editorial Advisory Board member, Harvard Health Publishing. Cool. So it's been peer reviewed. Love that. Research suggests that changing our clocks twice a year can have various health consequences. Of the two, springing ahead 1 hour tends to be more disruptive. That hour can change upset in our circadian rhythms, the body's natural 24-hour cycles, regulating key functions like appetite, mood, and sleep. Circadian rhythms largely depend on light exposure. The hour transition in the spring initially causes darker mornings and lighter evenings. Less morning light can decrease levels of mood-boosting hormone serotonin. In contrast, exposure to light later in the evening can delay the production of melatonin, the hormone that helps you fall asleep. This article from Harvard Health also gives you tips on how to prepare yourself for the time. I'm going to be honest. Some of them are like alter your bedtime 10 to 15 minutes a few days beforehand, right? Take afternoon naps, get more light, delay your day for several days after the time change so that you can wake up to the sun and not to the darkness. Curb alcohol and caffeine, cut back on drinking those things before and after the time change. I'm going to be really honest with you. For the safety of everyone around me, I will not be decreasing my caffeine intake. That will not be happening. Also, this is assuming that, like, we know the daylight savings time is coming. Most of us don't. I don't know one person who's like, oh yeah, daylight savings time. Cool, it's here. No, everyone's like, it is daylight savings time this weekend. Oh, fuck. That's the response I normally see. Anyway, I'm blaming the government for my mental health. I'm blaming time for my mental health. I hate it. It's awful. Hate it so much. You know what else I hate? Celebrities that just talk shit. Hate that. Hate that so much. I don't pay attention to a lot of celebrity things. I have worked really hard to like deconstruct my celebrity worship, and like I just expect for them to be human and say human dumb shit and then never take responsibility for it. I just assume that that's going to be the case. Okay, so on Threads, I saw a lot of people talking. Timothée Chalamet said this really shitty thing about ballet, and then all of these opera folks and ballet folks come out and they're like, trolling Timothée Chalamet. So I'm like, okay, what did he say? And apparently he said this.
Timothée Chalamet just went viral for disrespecting all of opera and ballet by saying that they're dying art forms. But it gets even worse when you realize why he even brought ballet and opera up in the first place. He was saying that ballet and opera were art forms no one cares about anymore and are struggling to be kept alive, just like movie theaters.
Admire people, and I've done it myself, to go on a talk show. Hey, we got to keep movie theaters alive. We got to keep this genre alive. And another part of me feels like I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore.
That just seems like a crazy thing to say while you're on your Oscars campaign for a movie that had to make its money back in the theaters. To add insult to injury, earlier on in the interview, Timothée Chalamet lauds WWE professional wrestlers as true athletes and showmen and comparing what they did on cable television to Greek theater.
It was like the titans of athletes, both men and women, but with this showmanship and storytelling. It's planned, it's scripted, it's fake, some people say, but the blows are real, the bruises are real. So it's hugely inspirational. And then, not to get too pretentious, but almost like a Greek theater setting.
As if the bruises and athleticism of ballerinas don't exist. As if opera didn't originate as a revival of traditional Greek theater, and not to mention the physicality and athleticism it takes to be an opera performer. I can't deny Timothée Chalamet's talent as an actor, but it would be really nice if he didn't deny the talent of other artists.
I mean, what do we expect from someone who dates a Kardashian? So, you know what? I'm not going to focus on Timothée Chalamet here. Could not give a fuck about him. But you know what we are going to do? We are going to head over to the Cincinnati Ballet and talk about Black ballerinas. It's Women's History Month. And for me, it's also Black Women's History Month, because we would not have the rights that we do without Black women and Black women's activism in this country. So we're going to be focusing on that today. PBS Independent Lens wrote an article on breaking barriers on stage, African-American ballet dancers who made history. I don't know anything about ballet. I'm just going to put that out there. I do have friends who take ballet classes, especially as adults, to stay in shape, and they love ballet as a kid, so they're still doing it now. I never got into it. It was never something that I was interested in, but I find it beautiful and fascinating. But I am not an expert, so we're learning together today. As we learn in A Ballerina's Tale, Nelson George's new documentary about Misty Copeland's Eurocentric standards of body shape, muscle tone, and skin color excluded dancers who didn't fit the wand mold demanded of prima ballerinas. All that changed in the summer of 2015 when Misty Copeland, a rising star already transcending the ratified world of classical dance, became the first African-American woman to be named principal dancer at the prestigious American Ballet Theater. The 75-year-old Grande Dame of Ballet, I don't know. Someone tell me. Before Misty, African Americans never danced in principal position at a major American ballet company. All but one were men. Desmond Richardson held the post with ABT during the 1997-98 season and returned as a guest artist later. At New York City Ballet, only Arthur Mitchell, 1962, and Albert Evans, 1995, featured as principal. Evans died recently at the young age of 46. Oh, that's sad. This article goes on to name so many Black and people of color Black ballet dancers: Lauren Anderson, Desmond Richardson, Arthur Mitchell, Janet Collins, and talks about their facing of outright prejudice, especially those who were born in the South. Raven Wilkinson, who appears with Misty Copeland in A Ballerina's Tale, was one of the first African-American ballerinas permitted to join a ballet company. During the 1950s, she danced with Ballet Russes de Monte Carlo. Please, if I pronounce it wrong, just tell me in the comments. Thank you very much. Under the condition that she posed as a white woman by painting her face. After 2 years of increasing racial discrimination, including threats in the South, she left Ballet Russes and eventually landed a spot in the Dutch National Ballet. I just can't because I am a white woman, I cannot fathom the idea that, like, yes, you can play this part, but you have to dress up as a man to do it, even though the role is gender neutral or the role is feminine. It is absolutely abhorrent and disgusting to me. Like, the amount of art that we could have had if we just, that we could still have if we were to just put all of the racism and transphobia and homophobia to bed. The Cincinnati Ballet outlines a timeline of Black ballet dancers and the history of it and how they have risen to fame and all of the things that they had to face in order to do that. Skipping forward to the height of the civil rights movement in 1969, Arthur Mitchell and Carell Shook founded the Dance Theater of Harlem. Mitchell began by teaching dance, a converted garage in Harlem in 1972. The Dance Theater of Harlem School moved to its permanent home at 466 West 152nd Street. That's so cool. In 2015, Misty Copeland became the first Black woman ever to hold the position of principal dancer at the American Ballet Theater. She was also the first Black woman to star in Swan Lake at the Met with ABT. Since her promotion, Copeland was appointed to the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition by President Obama in 2014. She was the recipient of the 2014 Dance magazine and was named to the 2015 Time 100 by Time magazine. Copeland is the author of the best-selling memoir Life in Motion, the children's book Firebird, and Ballerina Body. I'm going to insert also some beautiful pictures of these ballerinas, and oh my goodness, absolutely fucking stunning, these dances. According to the Boston Ballet, in 2023, Nissanens, please, again, tell me if I'm mispronouncing that, the Nutcracker saw a record-breaking attendance and a number of lead roles performed by Black artists, such as Boston Ballet soloist Lawrence Rhines Monroe, second soloist Daniel Durrett, and Tyson Ali Clark performed as Snow King, and Daniel Durrett performed as Cavalier. Record-breaking attendance doesn't sound like no one cares about it, Mr. Chalamet. I'm going to have all of these linked down below. Please, these are I'm not going to go through all of them, but they're very interesting reads on Black people in dance and people of color in dance who have advanced the art in so many ways and who have modernized the art. I'm also going to leave a link down below for the International Association of Blacks in Dance. Their vision is for dance by people of African ancestry or origin to be revered, respected, and preserved in the consciousness and cultural institutions of all people. Love that. I'm going to leave a link down below on how you can support them. Please do if you can. In conclusion, you just shouldn't listen to young white men about really most things. And also, if you think it's the government that's making you depressed, this time of year, it is. Absolutely. And I'm going to write a strongly worded letter to the creators of time and ask them to cut that shit out because it sucks so much. My depression has been depressioning. It has been a lot. It has been hard to manage. I'm very lucky that I'm in a position where I am maybe not properly medicated, but I am medicated to a degree. I have people who care about me, who check in on me. I can text my best friends and say, like, and I did this yesterday, can y'all please just like the next couple of days, just like let me know that things are real and I'm real and everything is fine. Check in on your girl because she is struggling. And I think I'm going to do a separate video on what's helpful and what's not helpful during this time, but just as like a reminder to anybody who is also like in a dark place, or if you know of someone who's kind of isolating a little bit, or you know that they have a history with depressive episodes, you don't need to give them platitudes. You don't need to tell them things are going to be okay. You don't need to try to make things okay for them. Ask them what they need. And if they don't know what they need, then come with suggestions, right? And I will give you some. Here are some suggestions. Ask them if they need food. Ask them if they're in the mood for company. go over and clean their house for them. If they're really into puzzles, drop off a new puzzle at their house for them, or get them a gift card to like their favorite game store, their favorite bookstore. And it doesn't even need to be monetary. You don't have to spend money to check on your friends. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please join the Patreon. I would not be able to do this if it weren't for my Patreon members. I adore y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. Subscribe, like, rate the podcast. I'm rebranding some things on my YouTube channel. Please look out for that. And I will see y'all next week. Fuck time. How about that? How's that for a sign off? Okay, bye.